International Space Station mission comes to end as Briton and two crewmates traveling in Soyuz capsule land in Kazakhstan. The British astronaut Tim Peake has said he feels truly amazing after landing back on Earth following 6 months in space, touching down in Kazakhstan at the end of a 7-hour return journey from the International Space Station. Peake's Soyuz capsule completed its deorbit to enter the Earth's atmosphere at around 10 a.m. UK time on Saturday, and it landed by parachute shortly afterwards. The landing occurred on target in a remote spot in the vast scrubland steppe of Kazakhstan, landing at 10:15 am UK time. The three crew members were extracted one by one and attended to by flight surgeons and nurses. Peake had his eyes closed and looked tired, but then smiled and gave a thumbs up to waiting reporters. He told the press he was good, thanks, very good, and that the journey was incredible, a real ride. Best ride I've been on ever. Advertisement. He added, "It's just been fantastic, from start to finish. I'm just truly elated, just the smells of Earth are so strong, it's wonderful to be back, to feel the fresh air. I look forward to seeing the family now." He said spending 186 days on the International Space Station had been a life-changing experience. "I'm going to miss the view definitely. I'd love some cool rain right now, it was very hot in the capsule and the suit's very hot, I might be having some pizza later, maybe a cold beer as well." The NASA Public Affairs Officer Dan Hewitt said, "I don't think I've ever seen better weather than the one we have now. All the teams out here actually got to see the capsule touch down. That's something I'm never going to forget. It was phenomenal to see. All the three crew members are out of the capsule. They're going to now enjoy the weather, their first fresh air in over 6 months." Earlier, Mission Control in Houston said the Soyuz had landed on its side after being caught by to the wind, but that this was a fairly routine occurrence. The search and recovery forces are now making their way around the aircraft so they can secure the aircraft and make sure all its systems are safe before they can extract the crew, Mission Control said. Tim Peake's time in space is drawing to a close, but he'll remain a star. Read more. Since December, the 44-year-old former helicopter test pilot has taken part in more than 250 experiments, performed a spacewalk, run the London Marathon on a treadmill, and inspired more than 1 million schoolchildren, earning him an honor from the Queen for extraordinary service beyond our planet. The capsule carrying Peake, the NASA astronaut Colonel Tim Peake, and Russian cosmonaut Yuri Malenchenko, landed in a remote spot on the vast Kazakhstan steppe at 10:15 am UK time, NASA confirmed. But first, the Soyuz made a scorching, and at times rough ride through the atmosphere, with temperatures outside reaching more than 1,600 degrees Celsius. Astronaut Tim Peake's stunning photos of the Earth, interactive map. Read more. The British astronaut Helen Sharman said before the landing that Peake's body would need to be prepared. "To multiply your weight by 5, it's very heavy, so just breathing will be more labored and difficult for him, but he'll have done this in a centrifuge. We know that he's strong and fit, as they all are in this crew, he knows what to expect," she told the BBC Radio 4 Today program. Sharman said she didn't think Peake would be scared. "You know this even before you launch into space. But I think once you've made the decision to go, you know that you want to come back, and there is no way around it. This is the only way back, and so it's not a thought of, shall I do it or not?" Soon after 3 a.m. UK time, the three men climbed from the ISS into the Soyuz TMA-19M spacecraft that took them into orbit on 15th of December. Closing the hatch between the station and the spacecraft 34 minutes. Docking latches were undone several hours before the Soyuz was pushed away by springs, which then fired 2 rocket bursts to put it at a safe distance from the space station before beginning the main part of its descent. Only the middle section of a Soyuz, the descent module, completes the trip to Earth intact, with passengers sitting side by side in shock-absorbing seats. The rest is discarded and burns up in the atmosphere. Friction on the spacecraft's heat shield will slow its speed from 17,398 miles per hour to 514 miles per hour and raise the outside temperature to 1,600 C. The rapid deceleration will push the crew back into their seats with a force of around 5 grams, 5 times the force of Earth's gravity. The NASA astronaut Doug Wheelock has described the experience of a Soyuz descent as like going over Niagara Falls in a barrel, but the barrel is on fire. Peake was the first British astronaut to be sent to the ISS by the European Space Agency. His mission was named Principia after Sir Isaac Newton's landmark work describing the laws of motion and gravity, and its main purpose was to contribute to scientific knowledge by conducting experiments in zero gravity. The stories you need to read, in one handy email. Read more. But Peake did much more than that, as he constantly kept in touch with the world on Twitter, took part in video-linked Q&A sessions, and engaged in educational activities with school children. In preparation for Saturday's undocking, the crew donned their Sakal space suits, took their positions in the module, and carried out final air leak and communication tests. After separation, video footage from the space station showed the distant Soyuz appearing to be heading for the moon. If all went according to plan, the return to Earth will have been controlled automatically by the craft's computer. In an emergency, the crew, led by Malenchenko, had the ability to alter their trajectory with a hand controller. A critical moment came at about 9:20 am UK time, when the rocket motor fires for 4 minutes and 45 seconds to put the Soyuz on a trajectory that took it out of orbit. If the deorbit burn had been too short, the astronauts could have skipped across the atmosphere like a stone skimming a lake and flown back out into space. If it was too long, they could have come in at too steep an angle, too fast, and risk being incinerated. Then, half an hour before landing and at an altitude of 87 miles, explosive bolts fired, splitting the Soyuz into 3 parts. The descent module containing the crew would have turned so its heat shield was pointing in the direction of re-entry. The other 2 sections, the service module containing propellant and control systems, and the spherical orbital module that housed the crew during their launch, would have plunged into the atmosphere and burned up. 15 minutes before landing, 4 parachutes would have deployed in succession. 1 second before touchdown, retro rockets would have fired and the spacecraft would hit the ground at 3 miles per hour. They were to be helicoptered to Karaganda Airport where, according to tradition, they will be offered bread and salt and a traditional Kazakh hat. Peake will then be flown to the European Astronaut Center in Cologne, Germany, while his US and Russian colleagues go to Houston and Star City, near Moscow. Sharman said events would unfold continually for Peake once he landed. It will be a medical debriefing immediately, and then possibly some quick technical debriefings in case there's anything really urgent they need to pass on, but then all of this business of getting back to Cologne this evening to meet his family again. It's this gradual adjustment, but for him it will be a continued debriefing, more medical studies on his body and press conferences galore, and then he will be back in the UK telling us his stories and passing on information about what he's been doing out there. During his time in space, Peake worked up to 14 hours a day, participating in more than 250 experiments devised by scientists from around the world. He was the first person to be honored while in space, being made a Companion of the Order of St. Michael and St. George for extraordinary service beyond our planet. Speaking from the ISS in January, he said he was looking forward to private time with his family, fresh air, and the feeling of rain.